Welcome back into the First and 30 football show. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys my way too early NFC predictions. Earlier this week, we did the AFC video. Today, we're going to be talking about the NFC. I'm going to tell you the order of the divisions and which teams I think will finish first, which will finish worst, and then, of course, go over my 7 playoff teams at the end of the video. If you love the NFL and you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 300 subscribers. Let's hop into these way too early NFC predictions. So let's start off with the NFC East, and my order is no different than last year. I have the Philadelphia Eagles winning this division, getting back to the playoffs. I have the Commanders finishing in second and making the playoffs. And then I have both the Cowboys and Giants missing the playoffs. Let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, it's a really simple argument for this team to win the division and get back to the playoffs, right? They just won the Super Bowl, and the majority of their core players are still going to be there next year. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and a great offensive line. That offensive core is together for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, and they're going to produce high-level top 5 offenses year after year as long as everybody stays healthy. Then you look at the defense, and while they lost some pieces, they kept the young, talented core together. Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Nolan Smith. This is a very, very solid group. You still have Zach Bond there as a veteran leader on this team. They have proven an ability to draft well. Now, I know that some people will give a little bit of pushback. The NFC East hasn't had a repeat winner in years, but ultimately, I do think that this Philadelphia roster is still a tier above the Washington Commanders. We saw that in the NFC Championship, I feel. In over a 17-game season, give me the better roster over a young star emerging quarterback who the opposing teams now have a year of film on. But that's not to say that I don't think Jaden Daniels will still be good, because I have this Commanders team still making the playoffs. I find it hard to believe that this team is going to regress to the point where they miss the playoffs. I've heard of sophomore slumps, but even for CJ Stroud and Jordan Love in his second year, they slumped a little bit and they weren't as exciting as they were in year one as starters, but they both still made the playoffs. Washington has improved this roster. They bring in Laremy Tunsil, who is a top 5 left tackle in the sport. Debo, I think, will be a good yak weapon. They have another draft ahead of them, another year for this coaching staff to develop the talent already there. I like Terry McLaurin. I think they should bring in a running back along with Debo, and you have a really fun offense. Zach Ertz is staying with the team. The defense could be a little bit better. I'd like to see a little bit more of a sustained pass rush, but ultimately, I think the Commanders are back in the playoffs. Missing the playoffs, I have the Dallas Cowboys, and truthfully, it's because I just don't see this team really being much different than they were last year. They're again losing talent on the defensive side. DeMarcus Lawrence, Jordan, the nickel corner, Jordan Lewis, he's gone. They are losing pieces all in an effort to keep Dak, CeeDee, and Micah, which is fine, but they haven't shown an ability to build a roster around those guys through the draft at this point in time. They've whiffed on a couple defensive picks. The offensive line has gotten older. Zach Martin retires. The Cowboys win total in Vegas is set at 7.5, and I think it's a fair line. I don't see this team as currently constructed making the playoffs. That's why I pitched in my video yesterday for this team to trade Dak Prescott and just start Joe Milton. And then I have the Giants. Listen, whether it's Danger Russ or Jameis Winston, I just don't think that either of those guys with this talent on the roster can lead them to a potential playoff berth. Malik Neighbors is an absolute stud, but outside of him, I'm not sure what they have. Andrew Thomas is an absolute stud, but outside of him, I'm not sure what they have. I love what the Giants are doing on the defensive side of the ball. I think their defensive line seriously has top 5 potential in all of the NFL. I liked the move to bring in Javon Holland and Debo, and I do truthfully think with a good draft and maybe post-draft, I might pick the Giants to finish third in this division over the Cowboys, but at the end of the day, both of those teams, in my eyes, are missing the playoffs. And then we hop into the NFC North, which is one of the harder divisions to predict, but here's what I got. I got the Lions once again winning this division and making the playoffs, the Bears finishing second and making the playoffs, the Vikings finishing third and making the playoffs, and the Green Bay Packers finishing fourth and missing the playoffs. For Detroit, this is a lot of question marks in terms of the coordinator turnover. Losing both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn is bad, and they need to target an edge rusher in the draft. I don't care what anyone says. I know Aiden Hutchinson will be back. Detroit needs another pass rusher. But at the end of the day, this is a very highly efficient team. And while I have some question marks about what their capabilities are in the postseason, in the regular season, the offense is simply put just too damn good to miss the playoffs. And I think the overall roster is still too damn good to not win this division. Maybe in a year from now we'll have questions, but I still think Detroit's got another year as kings of the NFC North. Their offensive line is still the best in the division. Jared Goff is still the best quarterback in this division. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are an elite running back duo, probably the best in football. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams. You see where I'm going with this. This is still a top-tier offense that'll be a top-5 offense in football next year. On defense, I like a lot of their pieces. Aiden Hutchinson, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch. I think they need to shore up some spots on that defense, and that would really make me look at them as true Super Bowl contenders and legit threats compared to where they were at the end of last season. But they were also dealing with a lot of injuries last year. I think Detroit will be fine, and I still choose to believe in Dan Campbell. Next, I have the Bears getting into the playoffs and getting the 2 seed in the NFC North. Listen, I think the Bears had a perfect offseason. You got the top head coach on the market in Ben Johnson, and his offensive repertoire mixed with the dynamic weapons that this team has. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. They're probably going to draft another weapon. Caleb Williams back there. They vastly improved the offensive line, bringing in 3 interior offensive linemen. They completely reshaped both guards and center, and it was a need. As well, they added to the defensive line. Football games are won and lost in the trenches. Chicago targeted that and got the best head coach on the market and has a guy in Caleb Williams that I still choose to believe in. Yeah, I got the Bears finishing second in the NFC North. In third and still making the playoffs, I have the Minnesota Vikings. And listen, when I first made this, I'm not going to lie, I had the Vikings out of the playoffs. Still finishing third, but out of the playoffs. And then I sat back and thought to myself, even if J.J. McCarthy isn't what Sam Darnold was for the Vikings last year, is this team really going to drop from 14 wins all the way out of the playoffs with that roster that, in my eyes, got better this offseason? I couldn't bring myself to do it, man. The offense is still uber loaded. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, a top-tier offensive line, a fantastic play caller in Kevin O'Connell, and J.J. McCarthy, who got to sit and learn for a year. There's a world where this guy comes out and is better than Sam Darnold. I can't predict them to not make the playoffs. And a defense that is still very strong. Jonathan Grenard and Dallas Turner are massive edge rushers. Javon Hargrave brought in. Jonathan Allen are brought in. The defensive line, it's loaded. Brian Flores is going to have a masterclass with this defense. They got to target a safety in the draft, but they could get a Malachi Starks. They could get a Xavier Watts. Like, this team is in a very good spot to have, perhaps quarterback aside, the best roster in this division. Now, I have some question marks about J.J. McCarthy, and I do truly believe he'll perform a little bit worse than Sam Darnold did last year, just as he's learning. It'll be like it's his rookie season. But I can't pick the Vikings to miss the playoffs. I just can't. I can, however, pick the Green Bay Packers to miss the playoffs. And the Packers, man, I don't love what they did this offseason. I wanted them to go get a wide receiver 1. They didn't get one. Their deep threat, Christian Watson, likely won't be ready to start next year. Josh Jacobs, another year older. I'm not fully sold on Jordan Love. I'm sorry. I just can't bring myself to fully believe in him. We've seen 2 regular seasons in a row now of roller coasters, and this team has been fringe the 7 seed both times. Now they're in the toughest division in all of football, a division that even last year, you could argue they should have gone 0-6 in, because it was 1 blocked field goal that stopped that from happening. Now that Bears team is way better. To me, the conversation is Bears-Vikings at 2-3. The Packers are easily my 4. And could 4 teams from one division make the playoffs? They could. But are we suggesting the Commanders are going to be out so the Packers are in? I just don't see that at this point in time. I don't love the defense. I believe they're going to move up of Jair Alexander. They signed Nate Hobbs to a decent deal. But again, that's making you worse talent-wise defensively. I'm just not bought into the Packers right now. In the NFC South, I have the Buccaneers winning this division, getting back to the playoffs. The Panthers finishing in second, the Falcons in third, and the Saints in fourth. Tampa Bay, to me, is by far and away the best team in this division. Organization to roster down, they have shown an ability to win and an ability to dominate this NFC South from when Brady was there to picking right back up after Brady left. Baker Mayfield is one of the best value contracts in the NFL right now. You got him for $30-something million a year at the quarterback position, like half of what Dak Prescott makes per year, and he's giving you Pro Bowl level seasons and getting to the playoffs. As well, Tampa clearly has a good culture. Chris Godwin foregone $20 million extra to stay with this team and create a weapons corps. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving, Rashad White, Cade Otton, who's solid, but they might draft another tight end. And that defense, they brought in Hassan Reddick, but at picking 19 in the draft, they're probably going to get a solid edge rusher. If they could get Mike Green, Tampa's roster is a couple of really good draft picks away from seriously being a Super Bowl threat. So to me, the NFC South is easily theirs. But I'm taking the Panthers number 2. I'm buying into the Bryce Young hype. Another year with Dave Canales, and I think we see the Panthers team from the second half of last year for a full season. They gave my Eagles an absolute run for their money in the regular season, and they are one bad throw/drop away from winning that game. Truthfully, Bryce Young is starting to prove why he was a number 1 pick. And they're going to get some better pieces around him. Last year it was Adam Thielen and Jalen Coker, but Chuba Hubbard missed some time. Chuba Hubbard's their running back of the future. They believe in Leggett. I think they should get another weapon in the draft this upcoming year. They started to target that defensive line, bringing in some pieces. They're a long ways from really competing with Tampa for this division, but I think with some of the mistakes that Atlanta has made, they're able to surpass them and get number 2. And that brings me to the Falcons at 3. I love the offensive personnel, but I'm not fully bought into Michael Penix the way that everybody else is. I'm taking Bryce Young over Michael Penix right now. Not a doubt in my mind about it. Atlanta lost pieces on that offensive line. And I know Penix played 2 games last year, but this is really his upcoming rookie season. This is his first year as the starter, and you're making the offensive line worse. The defense lost an all-pro, currently safety in Justin Simmons. The defensive line wasn't good last year. Are they going to actually target an edge rusher in this year's draft? The Falcons have way too many questions for me to really buy in. Now, they're not the Saints bad, where I don't know what the Saints are doing. Organizationally, I completely disagree with everything the Saints have done. Saints fans have gotten mad at me in the past about saying this, but I think they're one of the worst run teams in football, and I think that, again, they could be in contention for the number 1 pick in the draft this upcoming year. However, they get just enough talent to never get there. They added pieces to this defense that I do like. I like Justin Reed. I don't like him on the Saints. I don't like the Saints getting older veteran players to be good. The Saints defense, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Honey Badger, now Justin Reed. This is a defense in their late 20s to early 30s, yet offensively, they have a lot to be desired. Derek Carr is not a winning quarterback in 2025. I'm sorry. Chris Olave is fine when he plays, but outside of him, I'm not really fully bought into Rashid Shaheed. Taysom Hill's a fun gadget piece. I'm not fully bought into him. Alvin Kamara, another year older. This offensive line is okay at best. I'm sorry. The Saints are not going to be good next year. And then we move to the NFC West. I have the Los Angeles Rams soundly winning this division and getting back to the playoffs. The 49ers in second, the Cardinals in third, and the Seahawks in fourth place. So let's start with the Rams, right? The Rams, I think, are the consensus favorites to win this division, and I think it's rightfully so. Last year, they won it at 10-7 after yet again another slow start as they figured out what they wanted to do and how to shape that defense and dealt with some issues in terms of health on the offensive side of the ball. Their offensive line got really banged up early on in the year, and Cooper Kupp missed time. Well, the team will be healthy on the offensive line, assumingly so, to open up the season in terms of this video. And the team traded out Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams, who I think at this stage of his career is 2 tiers above Cooper Kupp. I think on certain days, he's better than Puka Nacua. Now, over the course of the season, give me Puka, but that is a top 3 wide receiver duo in all of football right there. With Matt Stafford slinging the rock, Kyron Williams back there, like this offense has plenty of juice behind it. And the defense really started to show out last year. The defensive line was balling immediately. Jared Verse looks like a defensive player of the year candidate. Braden Fisk, a really good interior defensive line piece. Cameron Curl, Kitchens, like there are some young players on this defense that are starting to figure it out, and they're going to continue to draft that side of the football. I believe that for sure. That's why the team extended Demarcus Robinson and Tutu Atwell. They're like, we're good on the offense. The offense, it's good. Maybe draft a tight end if one falls. If a Loveland or a Warren makes it to our pick, we'll consider it. But other than that, defense, 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 defense. And that's how it should be for this team. And they've shown an ability to draft that side of the ball. With Matt Stafford, a top 3 wide receiver duo, a good run game, and a defense that's only getting better. You saw what they did in Philly in that playoff game. They gave Philly their most competitive playoff game in the playoffs. Who knows if the Rams win that game? Are the Rams Super Bowl champions? It's a real conversation. So for me, they're the favorites to win the NFC West. I got the 49ers in second. I still have them missing the playoffs. The 49ers seem to have one of the weirdest perceptions this offseason. Some people have them finishing with 5 or 6 wins again. Vegas has their line set at 10.5. Me, I find myself thinking 8 wins for this team. There's a lot of young talent that's going to have to come in. They have like something like 10 plus draft picks, and they're going to have to draft starting level players. They as well have a lot of old players that they're kind of relying on that I'm just not sure I buy into playing a full 17 game season. Trent Williams, not going to happen. Christian McCaffrey, at this point, I don't think it's going to happen. Brandon Ayuk, what is he post ACL? George Kittle, is age ever going to start to affect him? Can you depend on Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall to be your wide receiver 2 and 3 over a full 17 game season? I kind of am not as concerned about that one, but it's something. Brock Purdy, without an all-star Avengers cast of weapons, because some of those guys are going to miss time or Ayuk's not going to be what he was, can he succeed? Last year, the answer was no. And then you look at that defense. They lost some big pieces. Hargrave, Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw. Like, those are not guys that they wanted to lose. Those are guys that they had to lose in an effort to pay Brock Purdy. And I guess I get it, but it's time to pay the piper. They couldn't pay him. Those guys are out of there. And now they got to draft a bunch of young players on the defensive side. They had so much roster turnover. Charvarius Ward, another name gone. I don't know if they could do it and get back to the playoffs next year with how strong some of the rosters are in the NFC. They're like my first team in if there's some injuries, and I'm sure there will be, and I'm sure one of those teams that I talked about as a playoff team will face injury, but San Francisco has some work to do. They have to have a really, really strong draft. Next, I got the Arizona Cardinals. Ultimately, I think the Cardinals just kind of hover around where they were last year, 8 or 9 wins, and they'll finish 3rd in this division. I like Kyler. I don't love Kyler. Marvin Harrison Jr. Was it okay rookie season? Yeah, but this is supposed to be a superstar wide receiver. I love Trey McBride. I like Connor. I like Benson. Some offensive pieces I enjoy. Gannon was shaping that defense towards the end of last year, so I'm sure they'll draft more defense this year, but I just don't see them making a playoff push. And then the Seahawks. Listen, I like what the Seahawks did this offseason, but I need to see a draft in which this team proves they really have a grasp and really have a focus of addressing the interior offensive line, because they have not done that in free agency. And if you have a good draft and you spend 2 of your first 3 draft picks on interior offensive line and you bring in a Gray Zabel, I'll switch my tune. I'll raise the Seahawks up. But as currently constructed and giving me no signs in the past that you could build an interior offensive line, Sam Darnold's going to be running for his life. And we saw in those last 2 games against Detroit and then against the Rams what happens when Sam Darnold faces pressure. He's not the guy he was the first 17 weeks. He's not a Pro Bowl level guy. The lights get bright, he sees ghosts again, and things go haywire. And he's going to a worse team. The offensive weapons in Minnesota were stellar. JSN, an old Cooper Kupp, Ken Walker, who can't stay healthy. I like Charbonnet as a backup, though. Not as good. The offensive line, nowhere near as good. The defense, I like some pieces, but not as strong as Minnesota's. Not as strong. Maybe it will be this year. Maybe Coach McDonald will bring in something, because I like Witherspoon. You know, I like the DeMarcus Lawrence signing. I like Ernest Jones. I'm a big fan of certain players they have. I got to see it start to mesh. But for right now, as currently constructed, with one of the worst offensive lines in football and Sam Darnold at QB, I don't have high hopes. But as always, guys, those are just my predictions. Be sure to drop yours in the comment section down below. If you love the NFL and you're not already subscribed to this channel, make sure you smash that button. I appreciate you guys' support. We are on the road to 300 subscribers. I'll catch you next time. Peace.